For center number 1, you're going to be doing a close reading of an article called A New Da Vinci Code. It ties to the Renaissance because it's going to talk about how we are finding new things about Leonardo da Vinci today using technology. Now I know that close reading, according to the survey we did last week, is not one of your favorite activities. However, we also know that regardless of whether or not we like it, it's something that's very important to us. No matter what field you go into, no matter what class you're in, you always need to be able to read and read critically. So I'm going to ask you to please take your time. This is the only close reading center that you have. Last time we had 3. I cut it down to 1 and tried to make some more fun centers, but I really expect some really good ideas coming out of what I see in your close reading this time. So depending on which reading you have, there is a folder at your center that has the reading packets in there, and you each have your name already written on the box. The first thing I want you to do before you start reading is just think about what you already know about Leonardo da Vinci. You may have seen the movie The Da Vinci Code or read the book. You may be just interested in science and history and already know some things about him. Maybe you remember some things you've talked about in social studies. So take a second and jot down any ideas that you remember about Leonardo da Vinci. When you're ready to start reading, I'm going to ask that you pause the screencast after I go through the directions for each step so that you get some good direction on how to complete the next step. So again, I'm going to go through the directions for step 1 right now, and then I want you to pause the screencast while you go back and do the reading. So for step 1, it tells you to read the article and identify the big idea of the reading. The somebody wanted but so then. The summary. Don't think about all the little teeny tiny details, just think about what was the big idea in the article. And as you read, I want you to use a highlighter to highlight any difficult vocabulary words. Sometimes I tell you which words you need to be looking for, but there should also be words within that article that you, as you read, don't understand, or maybe you've heard of them before, but you're not sure. If you couldn't explain to me what that word means, then it's something that should be highlighted. Okay. Now, after you get done doing your first read, obviously you need to go back and define those words because it's pointless to highlight them. If you didn't know them when you highlighted them, you're not going to know them when you go on to step 2. So right now you're going to pause the screencast and go do your first read. For read number 2, you're going to number the paragraphs and read the article a little more carefully this time, highlighting in a new color using the symbols plus if you agree, minus if you disagree, star for important ideas, and for importance we're talking about main ideas, exclamation point for anything you find surprising, and a question mark for things that you might be wondering about. So if you look at this article, first of all, if there are 9 paragraphs, then I'm going to expect 9 symbols. If there are 11, then I'll expect 11. I also don't want to see you highlighting entire paragraphs or entire sentences. Pick the part of the article that's important, or the part of the sentence. So if I was looking at this sentence, Da Vinci was a 15th century artist, scientist, and inventor, I already know the whole article is about Da Vinci. What's important here is that he's an artist, scientist, and inventor. So I really don't want to see entire sentences highlighted. After you read the paragraph, you're going to put some type of a marking over here. Don't worry about doing any writing at this point, just important symbols. And I should see a variety. I don't want to see just stars for main ideas in the entire paragraph or in the entire article, or just exclamation points. It should be a little bit of a variety, at least of these 3. If you find any opinions as you read, things that you might agree or disagree with, then you can use a plus or a minus, but that's really going to depend on what you find as you read. So go ahead, pause the screencast, and do read number 2, and when you're done with read number 2, come back and watch step 3. For step 3, you're going to complete a final read by paragraph again, and anywhere that you made one of these marks, you need to make some type of annotation in the margin, and this is where I expect to see all of your thoughts. And this is really where your big part of your grade comes from. You're looking to make comments that show that you understand the article. If you put a star there, then tell me, what is the main idea for that paragraph? Don't say, it shows how Da Vinci was an inventor. Well, give me an example of how he was an inventor. What is it? What information is important for you to remember? You might have some questions that show what you're wondering about. And these aren't questions that you have about the article, because most of those questions, a lot of times when I'm looking at your notes, are things that are already answered in the article. So they shouldn't be questions of things that you can find somewhere else in the reading. Notes that differentiate between fact and opinion. This is where you might agree or disagree. And observations about how the writer's strategies and choices affect the article. We've talked about maybe the first paragraph was written in first person to help you feel like you're part of the scene. Maybe he organized it sequentially or with cause and effect. So what do you notice about how he wrote it? After you do step 3, you've got some questions down here. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about multiple choice questions, but I know you've done these before. So I want you to practice using some of those test-taking strategies by crossing out at least one of the wrong answers, but if you can, try to cross out 2. Usually if you can narrow it down to 2 answers, obviously you have a better chance of getting the answer right, especially if you're unsure. So you've got some multiple choice answer questions to do here. And if it asks for a paragraph number, then I expect to see a paragraph number here showing me where you found your answer. I did a little better this time. I know some of them really look at the overall meaning of the article, so you can't really pinpoint it to one paragraph. Down at the bottom, you've got a couple of questions to answer. And then 10 and 11 really tie in our grammar. I want you to look at some transitions that the author used within the article. Tell me what paragraph they were in, whether they were an adverb, infinitive, prepositional phrase, or dependent clause. And then work a little bit more with dependent clauses down here by following that format. Read the sentence, take out your list of subordinating conjunctions, or awubuses, make a cloud around the awubus if you find one, underline the dependent clause, and then label the subject and verb to make sure that it's actually a dependent clause. If you finish this, you can turn it in and do one of your, finish your 7 Wonders project or read. Otherwise, it is homework for you tonight.